This is the Crime Cafe, your podcasting source of great crime, suspense, and thriller writing. I'm your host, Debbi Mack. Before I bring on my guest, I'll just remind you that the Crime Cafe has 2 ebooks for sale, the 9-book box set and the short story anthology. You can find the buy links for both on my website, debbimack.com, DEBBIMACK.com, under the Crime Cafe link. You can also get a free copy of either book if you become a Patreon supporter. You'll get that and much more if you support the podcast on Patreon, along with our eternal gratitude for doing so. I'm happy to say that the podcast is sponsored this month by Blueberry Podcasting. If you either have a podcast or want to start one, I use them and I highly recommend them. Blueberry Podcasting makes my job much easier. For one thing, I have a WordPress website, and Blueberry only requires you use their PowerPress plugin to work. But you don't have to be a WordPress user to launch a podcast with Blueberry Podcasting, so there is flexibility. The best part is you don't have to be a technical genius to use Blueberry Podcasting. But if you run into trouble, Blueberry Podcasting has 5-day phone support and 7-day email support. I love that. So get 30 days of Blueberry Podcasting free. This includes hosting and stats and a WordPress site if you need one. Publishing is as simple as create, upload, publish. Just use the alphanumeric promo code BLU011 to get started today. Hi everyone, Happy New Year. It's 2020, or it will be by the time this goes up on the air or in the stream or whatever. My guest today is author of the 3-volume Laurel and Helen New York Mystery Series and a 3-time finalist and winner of the 2015 Derringer Award for Best Short Story. Her latest novel is called Out of Time, a Nick Donahue adventure. It's not just a mystery, it's an adventure. So it's my pleasure to introduce my guest, Cathi Stoler. Hi, Cathi. How are you doing today?
Hi, Debbi. Thank you for having me.
I'm in the midst of reading Out of Time and enjoying the heck out of it. Can you tell us a bit about Nick Donahue, who I understand started as a character in a short story?
Yes. He is a professional blackjack player, and he travels all over the world. He lives in London with his partner, Marina, DiPietro. And he's fun and he's sophisticated, and he seems to find himself in a lot of trouble, even though he's pretty smart. When I came up with him, he was gambling in a casino in Venice, and Marina was undercover for MI6, but he didn't know that. He met her and he helped her with something, and then he got in trouble and she rescued him. And then at the end of that was sort of a 3-part story. And at the end of it, he wound up rescuing her from the mob who thought he owed them $10 million.
Very interesting.
He got it back from them. They were doing money laundering. So, and then I just thought that was a novella. The short story morphed into a novella. And then I thought I would like to continue writing those 2 characters.
What was it exactly that attracted you about those 2 characters?
I just think that they're compatible but kind of opposite. And they're both pretty smart and they both are good at their professions and their jobs. But there was just a little of this back and forth pull, and I thought that they would work well together to continue. Marina is really the detective, and the private investigator, and he kind of helps her.
Yeah, I was going to say that Marina is such a strong character, and technically she's the professional investigator. So it's kind of interesting to see the story told from the viewpoint of the helper character, kind of like Watson to Holmes, sort of.
Right.
Was there something that drew you toward writing toward that point of view in particular?
I really was very drawn to the character of Nick Donahue, and I wanted the story to be from his perspective. And even though Marina is the private investigator, it's really him telling the story and how they are interacting. And, he's just, I always liked spy stories when I was a kid. Now, he's not a spy, but it's like sort of a little bit of a James Bond kind of character, like that. So
Exactly.
he gets into these difficulties, but he manages in his own fashion to extricate himself.
Would you describe your writing as humorous?
Not generally, but I think in those two books, there's a little bit more of that. My other novels, I would say, like my characters are a little more snarky. So my first series, The Detective, was um, kind of a wisecracker, and then the series I'm writing now, The Woman Who Owns the Bar, is so sort of in that vein. I don't write funny things. I don't know that I could do that. Like if I consciously thought about it, it would probably, you know. But
But
just
it
there's
comes out.
yeah, it comes out. But there are some people who write very, very, very funny stories and funny characters, and you laugh out loud kind of thing. But that's
Hmm.
not what. So
But I think you have a nice balance there. You have a nice balance of the spy stuff with the humorous asides from Nick.
yeah, good. That's good. That's kind of.
Um, yeah. Do you plan to write a third book?
Um, well, I have a new series that I'm working on, so if I do, it won't be for a while. But I might write another story. Um, I was thinking about that, so I have to see how my time progresses. Not give them up entirely. I won't give them up entirely because I enjoy writing this and writing about them, and we'll have to see how the timelines go.
Yeah. Will Nick and Marina's relationship be changing over the course of the books?
Um, I don't think it's going to be changing too much. I mean, they'll still be together, and they'll still, he'll still want to help her, and he'll probably
Way.
be the one to get into the most trouble. I have them sort of rescuing each other in stories, and their base is in London, so they travel. He travels a lot for the gambling, for the blackjack, and she travels a lot for her job as well. So we'll see where they go next.
Yeah. How much research do you do to acquaint yourself with things like, say, blackjack or MI6 or the travel aspects of it?
Blackjack, I play a little, but I'm certainly no professional. And I had to write a scene in the first story where he had to lose so he could owe the casino money and he could do this favor for them. And you have to think about how would you really lose and not have people say, "What are you doing? Why are you playing your cards that way?" So that was kind of fun to figure that out. But the travel aspect I love a lot because I like to travel. I did go to Dubai, and it's quite a different kind of city than New York. Every building is 40 or 50 stories tall, and you go to the top of the Burj Khalifa, and all you see is the big giant city and then desert and water, and it's huge. I didn't expect it to be that big, but we had a lot of fun there. So,
Wow. So when people ask you what kind of books you write, what do you tell them?
well, I tell them they're mystery suspense stories. That's basically what they are. There's, a mystery usually solved or a suspenseful type of mystery. I mean, this was finding this weapon of mass destruction, and who was responsible for prompting that to happen, for the terrorists to try and get their hands on it. So I think that's how I think of them, as mystery, suspense, and maybe a little, and thrillers a little bit. To me, it's kind of the suspense thriller genre is similar.
with a kind of dash of romance in there.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. There's chemistry there with Nick and Marina, who I just loved as a character, both of them. I I understand you're working on an urban thriller called Bar None. That's the one you just yeah talked about.
Uh, one is the first book in the series. Now I'm working on the second one called Last Call. And the main character in those books is a woman named Jude Delane, and she owns the Corner Lounge on 10th Street and Avenue B, Lower Manhattan. And in the first book, they find the body in the, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting my second book mixed up with my first book. Her first book, she helped solve a crime at the food bank in the Bronx. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, there's a giant market there, the Hunts Point Market, and it's a wholesale market for food, all kinds of vegetables and meats and things. And I placed the food bank, an imaginary food bank in that area. So her landlord volunteers there, and they're very good friends. So someone gets killed, a friend of his, so she helps him solve that case. In Last Call, the book that should be coming out next year, that is about serial killers. Someone who is he's looking for to find a serial killer. So, and then the third one, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with that, but we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Hope
Okay. Um, since you're writing about a New York City bartender, I have to ask, have you ever read Con Lahane's work?
I know him. His work is
Yes, I was going to say, Beware the Solitary Drinker.
writing about the New York Public Library now. I haven't read those.
Yes,
That's the theme.
I
Yeah,
have yet to read those books too. I love his work. Um, very nice guy and good writer. What authors do you most enjoy reading?
oh, let's see. Well, I used to like to read all the spy people, but now I read Allison Galen and Megan Abbott, and I read some historical fiction, Virgil Roland and Mariah Fredericks. They're fun to read too. It's a little bit different. Always like John Le Carre. Who else is contemporary? Susan Isaacs. I'm looking forward to her last book. I didn't even realize she had one, but a friend told me about it. I'm trying to think who else. Of course, I read Agatha Christie and those people
All the
who were,
classics, yes.
yeah.
What authors would you say have most inspired your own writing?
I think Sue Grafton. I liked her books a lot, and she had that great protagonist, Kinsey, and she had a quirky sense of humor. Kinsey did, and she's one of them. I think who else? I should have thought about this before I spoke to you. I think who else right now. If it comes to me, I'll come back to that. But I read all the time. I just am reading something by Jonathan Kellerman, and I just read Jacqueline Winspear, which is historical. So I'm trying to alternate a little bit and get, some new points of view. Oh, and Wendy Corsi Staub, I love her too. And
Aha,
Carol, they're all good writers. Carol Goodman.
Carol Goodman. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for those suggestions. Um, I'm going to do something new for the new year here. I'm going to do a little James Lipton from in the Actors Studio or from the Actors Studio, whatever that show was. What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, I don't think I can say it.
Feel free to say it.
The F word.
The F
When
word.
like nutty, that's what I go, why is this happening?
Gotcha. Very good. Sort of WTF, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually better.
All right. Well, I thought I would give that a try. Anyway, is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish up?
um, no, I mean, I'm glad that you said you're enjoying my book, and I hope your podcast listeners will, and video watchers will enjoy it as well. Um, it's just fun, I think it's fun, and I like those characters. It's not, oh, you know, heart wrenching where are they going. I mean, there's suspense, of course, but
But
more
there's a
of
lot
a,
of suspense.
yeah, there is a lot of suspense, but it's kind of, I think I handle it in a more humorous, a little bit more humorous, or fun way.
Kind of a fun caper-like way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, well, thank you very much for being here today, Cathi. I just want to thank you for your time and thank you for answering our questions. And your book is, as I said, getting very exciting, and I can't wait to sit down and read it tonight.
Okay.
Um, before we go, let me just remind you that you can buy copies of the Crime Cafe 9-book set and Crime Cafe short story anthology by going to my website and clicking on Crime Cafe or on books. You'll find my novels and other writings there too. However, if you become a podcast supporter on Patreon, you'll also get an advanced reader copy of all my upcoming books. So that's something I'm offering. And I also do weekly updates on where I'm at with my writing on Patreon. So if you would like to, please leave a review for the podcast too. I'd really appreciate it. It helps us a lot. So next time, our guest will be Blaine Pardo. And in the meantime, I'll see you in 2 weeks and happy reading.
Happy reading and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, too, yes.